Spring 6, recovering from my first mine disaster. So after passing out in the mines the night before, I woke up to the very glamorous reality of my first Stardew Valley beginner playthrough. Low energy, low money, and a growing suspicion that this game is way less forgiving than it looks. At this point, I at least had a furnace and a scarecrow, which made me feel slightly more like a real farmer and slightly less like a woman living in a wooden panic attack. I was still very early in year 1 spring, so my farm was tiny, my money was sad, and my entire strategy was basically water the crops, collect resources, and try not to pass out again. I also remember thinking I needed a well because running back and forth to refill the watering can was already starting to feel personal. So day 6 was less about making some huge breakthrough and more about trying to stabilize. I wasn't doing anything flashy. I was just gathering wood, stone, and whatever else I could get my hands on, while pretending I had a long-term plan. This was also the point where I started realizing Stardew Valley is not just a farming game. It's also an inventory management game, a time management game, and occasionally a game where you get humbled by a potato. By the end of day 6, I still didn't feel efficient, but I did feel like I was finally starting to understand the rhythm of the farm a little better. Now on to day 7, I became a full-time resource hoarder. Spring 7 was the day I fully entered my pick up absolutely everything era. At this point in my Stardew Valley Year 1 Spring 7 run. At this point in my Stardew Valley Year 1 Spring run, I still didn't know what half the items were for, but I knew enough to suspect that throwing things away would come back to haunt me. So if I found a wood, stone, fiber, coal, ore, forage, sap, anything really, I kept it. If it looked useful, I kept it. If it looked suspicious, I kept it. If I had no idea what it did, that was honestly the strongest reason to keep it. Day 7 feel like one of those quieter Stardew Valley beginner days where the progress isn't dramatic, but it matters. I spent a lot of my day collecting resources and slowly building up the stockpile that future me would absolutely depend on. And this is where my chest started becoming less of a storage box and more of a survival system. Well, actually, they're very disorganized because my backpack was always full, my farm was still a mess, and every trip outside somehow turned into me dragging home more random items like a little pixelated raccoon. I didn't feel organized. I feel like a woman running a warehouse with no inventory software. Still, day 7 was good. No major disasters, no clinic bill, no crop casualties. Just me, my resource pile, and a very strong commitment to keeping anything that looked remotely useful. Day 8. Okay, Spring 8. First real progress in the mines. Spring 8 was the day my Stardew Valley mines progress finally started feeling real. I made it to mine floor 5, which probably doesn't sound impressive to experienced players, but to me, at this stage of the first Stardew Valley playthrough, it felt like I had just conquered a national landmark. Up until now, the mines was been me walking in, swinging at rocks, getting nervous, and leaving before the game could ruin my life. But day 8 was different because this was also the day I finally got my furnace built. And that honestly felt huge because collecting copper ore is one thing, but once I actually had the furnace, it finally felt like the materials I've been hoarding were turning into actual progress instead of just decorative rocks in a chest. This is one of the first moments where I felt the game start to click. Not all the way, let's not get carried away, but enough to make me think, okay, maybe I'm not just freelancing my way through farm disaster anymore. Reaching floor 5 in the mines and building the furnace made day 8 feel like a milestone in my Stardew Valley beginner journey. Messy milestone, yes, but milestone. Day 9. Spring 9. I killed a potato plant. Yes, Spring 9 was the day I learned that confidence is dangerous. Because the second I started feeling a little more comfortable in the Stardew Valley, I accidentally killed one of my potato plants. And honestly, that felt very on brand for this playthrough. I wish I had some strategic explanation for what happened, but the truth is, a lot less dignified. I was still learning the controls, so I figured out my tools, and somewhere in the middle of all that, one innocent potato paid the price. There is something uniquely humbling about destroying your own crop in a farming game. Like, yes, I had already passed out from exhaustion. Yes, I had already been billed by the clinic. Yes, I had already embarrassed myself in the mines. But somehow, the thing that really hurt was looking at that dead potato and realizing I did that with my own hands. So day 9 became the day I learned a very important Stardew Valley beginner tip. Tools and scraps should not be nowhere near each other unless absolutely sure what I'm doing. By the end of the day, I had made some progress, but I had also committed agricultural negligence, and unfortunately, that's part of the Watta Farm story now. Spring 10. The mines gave me also almost nothing. Spring 10 was one of the most days I went into the Stardew Valley mines hoping for a big haul. I came back feeling personally disrespected by copper. I only collected a little bit of copper ore, and at this point I was already deep enough into year 1 spring to realize that mining takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and apparently gives you just enough resources to keep you emotionally unstable. I did manage to reach mine floor 6, so technically it wasn't a bad day, but emotionally this was very much a why am I risking my life underground for 3 sad rocks kind of day. It was also the day I started looking at my inventory differently, because when the mine run doesn't give you enough copper, suddenly you start staring at things like quartz and wondering if maybe that could become grocery money. That's where I was mentally. Not how do I optimize my tool upgrades? No. I was in full can I sell this shiny rock and recover financially mode. So day 10 wasn't a huge breakthrough day, but it was a very real Stardew Valley beginner mining day. Slow progress, not enough ore, and a growing awareness that every trip underground is basically a negotiation between hope and disappointment. Still, I made it to floor 6, and at this point, I was learning not every day in Stardew Valley needs to be dramatic to matter. Sometimes progress is just surviving the mines, carrying home your weird little pile of rocks, and trying again tomorrow. So spring 6 through 10 felt like the point where my Stardew Valley playthrough started shifting from pure confusion into an actual progress. I had a furnace, I was making my way through the mines, I was building up resources, and yes, I also killed a potato plant and nearly get nothing useful out of an entire mine run. So overall, I'd say things were going extremely on brand.